Hey, it's Dr. Gareth from Fusion Chiropractic, and today we're going to go through some basic exercises and stretches that you can use to look after your spine and your nervous system. Just like you brush your teeth every day to look after your teeth, we want to do the same thing for our spine and our nervous system. By the time you get a cavity, the cavity's been there for quite a long time, and usually it's because you haven't been looking after your teeth. It's no different to any spinal problem. By the time you feel pain or problem, the problem has probably been there for a long time and you probably haven't been looking after it. So there are 8 exercises that I'm going to go through. There are general exercises and stretches that I've found good for most people. Every person is a little bit different, so over time you may take some of these out, you may add some more in, and I think it's just worth taking the time again to spend looking after yourself. One caveat that I will add is if you are concerned that you may not be able to do these things, you have some sort of health condition or spinal problem, and you're not sure, then make sure you check with your health practitioner, whether that be your chiropractor or your medical doctor or your physio. If you can't see one of them, then make sure you take your time and ease into these things. Start off slowly, start off gently. It's much easier to do that and then slowly increase the amount of tension or pressure or strength that you're using and find that you're okay, than it is to go as hard as you can, hurt yourself, and then be in a worse place than you were before you started. So the first thing we're going to do, so we're going to start with a couple of exercises because I think it's important to get some movement in there before we start stretching. The first one is called a Superman exercise, and essentially we're going to be working the upper back, like all these muscles down through between your shoulder blades. So you're going to start on your tummy, and what you're going to do is you're going to start in a cactus pose. So essentially my arms are coming at 90 degrees to my shoulder. And what you're going to do is you're going to lift your whole body up, and then you're going to extend your arms. You're going to bring your arms down to your sides, and you're going to squeeze your shoulder blades together. You think of like I'm trying to get my thumbs pointing to the sky. And then I'm going to bring my elbows back to 90, and then I'm going to relax. Now, something that's really important is that what I don't want to do is I don't want to do this. I don't want to try and overextend my head. I don't want to be trying to look up there. I want to try and keep my head in a neutral position while I'm doing this. And you can repeat that 10 times. The next one that we're going to do is we're going to do something called a glute bridge. Again, when you spend a lot of time sitting all day, your glute muscles don't get worked very much. So what you're going to do is you're going to lie on your back. You're going to bring your heels as close to your bum as you can. And what you're going to do is you're going to push your hips up as high as you can. Now essentially everything should be in a nice straight line, and then you're going to drop down and relax. Now you're going to come up again. Now as we're coming down, I want you to think about extending your tailbone, and so when you get to the bottom, your back should actually be flat against the floor. I shouldn't be able to get my hand underneath there. And you're going to repeat that 10 times. Now, if you want some more challenge, you can extend your leg and do the exact same thing with your leg nice and straight. If you want even more challenge, you can do the same thing with your leg push into the air. Now this makes it much harder, and you'll find that your hip will want to start dropping, and if you find that, then just return to one of the previous advances. If you're doing it on one leg at a time, do 10 on one leg and then repeat that on the other side. If you're just doing it on both sides, just do 10. The next one's called a bird dog, and essentially what you're going to do is you're going to go, now this, I love this exercise. This is the first exercise that my first chiropractor ever taught to my dad. And basically what you're going to do is we're going to go onto all fours, your hand underneath your shoulder, your hip, at least your knee underneath your hip. And what we're going to do is we're going to extend your arm in a Y direction, so not quite in front, just out to the side. And you're going to extend your leg at the same time, so that essentially everything's in a nice straightish line. Now you'll notice I'm doing the opposite hand and the opposite leg at the same time. That is the preference. If that is too difficult for you, you can just go one leg at a time, one leg at a time, one arm at a time, one arm at a time, until you can do them at the same time. You want to do 10 on each side, and again we're trying to work your core muscles, which are important for helping stabilize the spine, and we're also looking at working those lower trap muscles again between your shoulder blades and your glutes, which we just talked about as well. So now that we've done, now if you have time, and let's assume you have a whole 15 minutes to do this, I'm going to suggest you run through those 3 exercises again 2 more times each. So essentially you'll do about 3 sets. But now assuming we've done all that, then we're going to move on to a couple of mobility exercises. The first one is called a cat dog, and essentially a cat cow. And essentially we're going to go back into that bird dog position where your hands underneath your shoulders, your knees underneath your hips, and you're going to try to look up at the sky and drop your belly down. So essentially you're going to arch your back, and then what you're going to do is you're going to tuck your tailbone, curl your spine, and you're going to look down your belly button and repeat. So from the side, see I'm looking up and I'm curling and tucking. Now there are way more variations of that. One variation that I would add to this for most people is moving from side to side. So imagine that you're trying to touch your right shoulder to your right hip, and then your left shoulder to your left hip. And then even just moving side to side, so sort of from the front, I'm curling like that, and then I may even be trying to, almost like I'm trying to just move my upper body from my lower body. Very good for getting the top part of your spine moving. And in terms of that cat cow, so essentially you're going to do 10 like that, and you can probably do 10 on each side. Just find what feels good. The next thing we're going to do is some mobility through your neck. So essentially we're just going to turn from side to side 10 times, nice and controlled. Now one of the tricks here is to not let your eyes cheat. So one thing you can do is look at your thumb and keep that nice control. You can just go to one side, because it's very easy for you to turn your head a little bit but turn your eyes the whole way, and essentially you haven't moved your neck very much. Then what you're going to do once you've done 10 to each side, you're just going to do 10 side to side head movements, since you were laterally flexing the neck, and get that nice and limber. Now we've done some of the mobility, we're going to start doing some stretches. So we're going to start with the neck and we're going to work our way down. We're going to keep it really simple, and we're just going to go for one to the side. Essentially you're going to grab the opposite side of your head and just gently stretch down, and you're going to drop the opposing hand down. You can even hold on to something if you're sitting on a chair, or in my case I'm going to grab my leg, and I'm just gently going to stretch through there, and there's a nice big stretch through those neck muscles and through the trap in the shoulder. Now, you need to hold this for at least 30 seconds, but even better to do it for 2 minutes. If you actually want to start changing the structure of the tissue, then you need to hold it for a minimum of 2 minutes. And then if you really want an added bonus, what you're gonna do is you're gonna add some contractions. So you're gonna push your head into your hand for 10 seconds. This is after you've done 2 minutes. And once you've done 10 seconds, you're gonna try and actively touch your ear to your shoulder for 10 seconds. Then you're gonna repeat that, pushing against your hand for 10 seconds, pushing your ear to your shoulder for 10 seconds, pushing your hand for 10 seconds, and then pushing your ear for 10 seconds. And then you're going to repeat that on the other side. Now, some people might like to add some flexion into that. Again, it depends how much time you have and what you need, but so you can play around with that. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a chest stretch. Now, for this, you can either use a band, like I've got here, or you can just use a broomstick. So we use the broomstick for the purpose of this conversation, and essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it into, I'm going to hold either side of the broom, and I'm going to push back behind my back. Now you'll see that that's fairly easy for me. I'm not the most flexible person through my chest, so if I want to add some more, all I've got to do is change how close I'm holding my hands. So I want a little bit more pressure, so I brought my hands slightly in, and I can feel that's now getting a little bit tight. If you go any tighter, you'll find that you can't straighten your elbows, or you just find ways to cheat. And in that case, I think don't bother. You might as well just open your hands up again and do a nice easy one. Now, preferably, you're not going to flare your chest, which is not necessarily easy to do. So what you don't want to do is if I go too tight, you'll see that I have to flare my chest to get this up. It's not the end of the world if you do, but it's not like you basically just cheating. So I would suggest you don't just open your hands up again. Now again, you need to hold that for at least 30 seconds. I would recommend doing it for longer, 2 minutes. And then if you really want to get excited, you can add those, again, you add the same kind of contraction that you did before. So you're going to push, I'm almost trying to bring my hands together. So I'm trying to bring my hands together, and then I'm holding that for 10 seconds, and then I'm actively squeezing my shoulder blades together. So I'm trying to get my hands to touch behind themselves. And then I'm pushing, and I'm pulling, and I'm pushing, and pulling. You're going to do each of those for 10 seconds each. The second to last one is a psoas stretch. So you have a muscle at the front of your inside your hip flexors. It attaches to the front of your spine, to the front of your leg. So sometimes when people have low back pain, especially when they find it's worse when they lie on their back and then find it easier when they bend their knees, it's because they're shortening that muscle and it's taking pressure off their back. Now you may want a pillow for this because it gets a little bit sore in the knees sometimes. But essentially what you're going to do, now there's a couple of variations of this. The most basic one is to get yourself at like 90 degrees, both knees 90 degrees. You're going to contract your glute, your bum, and then you're going to gently lean into the stretch, making sure that glute stays nice and contracted. Now if you want, you can relax that and lean even further into it. It doesn't necessarily make it wrong, but you may find some other things get tight. So for me, I find that my adductors actually start getting tight as well. But whatever you choose to do, it's better than doing nothing. And again, I'm going to suggest you hold that for at least 2 minutes, or at least 30 seconds, but ideally you're going to hold that for 2 minutes. And then you're going to repeat that on the other side. Now, while you're in this position, it's quite easy for you to come back and do your hamstrings. So there are many ways to do your hamstrings. You could do it like this. My preference is to sit on the ground with my opposite foot touching the inside of my thigh, just above my knee, and grabbing my toes. And I just relax. In fact, I often will listen to a book, or I'll watch something while I'm doing all these stretches. And again, minimum 30 seconds, but ideally you're gonna go for 2 minutes. And I was gonna say something extra about that. No. So there you have it. 8 exercises that you can get done in under 15 minutes, maybe even under 10, if you do everything fairly short and sharp. And it's just a nice way to look after your spine, which is really good for your nervous system and for your health. So if you can't get to your chiropractor, these are great exercises and stretches you can do. And when you do finally get to be able to see your chiropractor again and get your spine looked after by a professional, then these exercises and stretches make that even better. So there you have it, 8 exercises that you can use at home to look after yourself, especially when you can't see your chiropractor. And when you do get to see your chiropractor, you can still use them and even get more value out of the visit than you were before. I'm Dr. Gareth Rapson from Fusion Chiropractic, and I hope you're having a great day.